What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Tom Aspinall calls out Michael Chandler for having low fight IQ. Yesterday, a video was released on Tom Aspinall's YouTube channel that featured Paddy Pimblett. In the video, Tom Aspinall called out Michael Chandler for bad fight IQ. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. Aspinall isn't a fan of the reckless style that Chandler brings. Here's what he had to say during the video with Paddy.
I don't want to slag him off, but it's some like bad fight IQ.
No, that's what we said going into it, lad. Obviously, he's explosive, he's fast, but his fight IQ is not good.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Because he was like going there, picking you right up off the floor, which gets a bit of a scream off the crowd, slamming you, and you were going
yeah, and getting
straight back up. I'm like, you could have saved half the energy and been on top.
Huh?
You know what? It's weird because he's obviously like a really fit guy, but if you do a sprint for 5 minutes, no one's going to be fit, are they? That's what he does. He just goes out there, he throws from like here, swinging. Everything he does, he's picking up full blast. It's just, it's mad for someone who has that many fights. I'm just surprised.
Are you a fan of Michael Chandler's fighting style, or do you agree with what Tom Aspinall is saying? Let us know in the comments below. Shavkat Rakhmonov, sad news. Earlier this morning, some sad news came out that involved Shavkat's wife and kids. According to local news outlets in Shavkat's home country of Kazakhstan, it was revealed that Shavkat's wife and his kid were involved in a serious car accident on July 27th. Apparently, the driver of the vehicle lost control and ended up flipping the Toyota Land Cruiser 200. This resulted in 2 people being unalived and 2 people injured. Then it was later confirmed by the Regional Department of Health that Shavkat's wife and kids were involved. The department then released the following statement about the situation. They are now in the Shu Municipal Hospital in moderate condition. They receive treatment in line with the clinical protocols of diagnosis and treatment. After the statement, both Shavkat's wife and kid checked out of the hospital later that day. Details are not too spot on right now considering that this happened just yesterday. But from what we know, his wife and 3-year-old son were injured but without life-threatening injuries. 2 of his wife's friends were allegedly unalived during the incident. Prayers to everyone involved in this tough situation. Reinier fires back at Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa clearly wasn't impressed with what he saw from Reinier at UFC Abu Dhabi. In fact, Bohachinia has proclaimed he would knock the Dutch Knight out. Well, RDR was given a heads up about Costa's claim, and he's responded with a zinger of his own. De Ridder faced Robert Whittaker in the headliner of UFC Abu Dhabi on Saturday and grinded his way to a split decision victory over the former middleweight king. The scrap probably didn't make anyone's fight of the year list, but it was another key win for RDR, no question. Well, Costa was watching the bout on Saturday, and he had this to say about De Ridder's style. I thought Dricus was most weird fight style in UFC, but De Ridder is doing everything to compete with him head to head. Then, the powerful middleweight also made the following proclamation. With all due respect, I would knock out De Ridder 3 times which round. All that said, congrats for your win today, despite bad fight. And then Costa also posted this comment. Well, during the post-fight presser, RDR was asked for his take on Costa's criticisms, and the decorated fighter fired back with this. There's always a hater out there. Did Paulo Costa never fight Whittaker? What happened? That's a sharp comeback from the Dutch Knight. If you need a refresher, Costa faced Whittaker in February 2024 and ended up losing the fight via unanimous decision. But what do you think of Bohachinia's bold prediction? Do you see him knocking RDR out even though Whittaker couldn't? De Ridder was unable to submit Bobby Knuckles on Saturday, but if you followed him over the years, you know he's a very dangerous fighter. This is likely why RDR was asked to weigh in on the recent challenge Khamzat issued, in which he declared he would give anyone who submits him sparring 1 million rubles. That amounts to just over 10K.
I hope to submit him and make a little bit more than $10,000 in the cage. Once I hear this, I'm gonna take a full day in the ice bath, recover from this, get in the hyperbaric the next day, and then I'll be ready to go.
Challenges aside, it'll be interesting to see what comes next for RDR. While he has made it clear that he'd like to fight the winner of the August 16th Dricus du Plessis-Chimaev fight, the winner of the September 6th bout between Nasruddin Imavov and Caio Borralho could also secure that opportunity. Who do you want to see the Dutch Knight face next? Belal Muhammad says Khamzat will take out Dricus du Plessis at UFC 319. Leading up to UFC 319, the consensus has been that Khamzat Chimaev could be in serious trouble if he's unable to finish Dricus du Plessis early, but recently, Belal Muhammad outlined why he doesn't necessarily agree with that take. Chimaev is set to challenge the middleweight champion at the upcoming August 16th card after going 8-0 in the UFC. Since Chimaev has destroyed nearly all of the men he's faced in the promotion and done so quickly, Many have questioned how boards will fare if the fight lasts more than a couple of rounds, especially since DDP has fought in the championship rounds several times. Well, recently, Muhammad was asked for his prediction on the upcoming fight. The former welterweight champion proceeded to outline why he does not agree with the Chimaev will gas narrative.
What do I got, DDP or Chimaev? Honestly, I think too many people are counting out Chimaev's cardio. I think where Khabib said it best, if he stands up with him and strikes with him, I think he'll do well. DDP is an awkward style, but he does get hit a lot. And he breaks a lot of guys with fatigue. If Chimaev doesn't come out super hard in the first round, trying to take him down and letting out all his energy, I think he'll be fine if he keeps it standing. And then maybe the later rounds, you try to wear on him a little bit, but you don't want to go out for that first round. And DDP just plays defensively strong, obviously, and then you end up burning yourself out for 4 rounds. So he needs to be smart, especially in this 5-round fight. But I got Chimaev. I think Chimaev's a lot crisper on the feet and definitely crisper on the ground.
It is an interesting take, and it seems to be the minority opinion. But do you agree with Belal? UFC updates. Let's take a look at some UFC and fight updates. Recently, Dan from Best Fight Picks reported that next Saturday's fight between Tatsuro Taira and Amir Albazi is off, which is a huge problem since it's supposed to headline the card. In a corresponding social media exchange, Dan also reported he's been told a new fight will be booked for the headliner, instead of another fight being moved into that slot. So given that there's less than a week left, it'll be fascinating to see what the UFC pulls out of its hat. And following her stoppage loss to Tabitha Ricci at UFC Abu Dhabi, Amanda Ribas had to undergo emergency surgery. The fight was stopped after Ribas took an elbow and follow-up punches in the second round, which she later confirmed via IG had moved a plate that she already had inserted into her face. That surgery was required after Ribas was stopped by Macy Barber in 2023. I'll have to have surgery over the other surgery I had before. I think the plate was a bit loose. Those who were with me know I was constantly training with headaches, and I thought it was nothing. It appears that with the impact of the strike, the plate moved and got the muscle out of position, and it's pressing I don't know what. So hopefully the surgery goes well, and Ribas has a full and speedy recovery. And speaking of surgeries, if while watching UFC Abu Dhabi you thought for sure Muhammad Yahya would be sidelined for months due to a nasty break, it looks like that may not be the case. After getting floored 6 times by Steve Wynn, the doctor eventually stopped the fight on account of how horrifically swollen Yahya's left eye was, but it's being reported Yahya did not suffer any broken bones in his face. Shara Bullet recorded a pivotal win at UFC Abu Dhabi, but the Dagestani fighter did need some medical attention. Following his decision win over Marc-Andre Barrio, it was reported that the noted striker had undergone surgery due to an issue with his nose, but it sounds like all is well and that Shara Bullet won't be hospitalized for too long. Recently, AG Fight reported that strawweights Julia Polastri and Karolina Kowalkiewicz will battle at the UFC's October 11th card in Rio de Janeiro. Polastri is coming off a unanimous decision loss to Lupita Godinez in May. Kowalkiewicz, meanwhile, is coming off consecutive losses to Yasmin Lucindo and Denise Gomez after winning 4 straight. And Marcel Dorf is reporting that heavyweights Hamdi Abdel Wahab and Chris Barnett will throw hands at UFC 321 October 25th. Barnett has not competed since last October, when he was stopped by Kennedy Nzechukwu. Beast Boy is 2-3 in his last 5. Abdel Wahab dropped a unanimous decision loss to Muhammad Usman in June, which followed his split decision win over Jamal Pogues in February. Speaking of UFC 321, Dorf is also reporting that Ikram Aliskerov will fight Jun Young Park at the Abu Dhabi event. Aliskerov put away Andre Munoz in April to get back on track, after he was quickly stopped by Robert Whittaker in June of last year. Meanwhile, Park recently recorded a unanimous decision win over Ismail Nardiev, which followed his split decision win over Brad Tavares back in October. Arman Tsarukyan praises Dagestan as #1 for MMA. Arman Tsarukyan has feuded with Islam Makhachev in recent years, but you won't hear him slamming the former lightweight champ's native Dagestan in terms of its abilities to produce galaxy-class fighters. Recently, Tsarukyan was asked where he thinks is the best place to train mixed martial arts. The fighter, who was born to Armenian parents living in Georgia, was quick to cite Dagestan.
#1, the MMA place who trains in Dagestan, like 50% of people trains MMA, and if you let them to fight in UFC, maybe like 8 of them is gonna be from Dagestan champions, because there's so much good fighters there and they train every day and a lot of people. But in Georgia it's just like a new, and Mirab, he came from he became a good fighter in US. Ilya, he became a good from Spain, but in Georgia it's still like a new sport, and I feel like Mirab or Ilya, after when they retired, they gotta open good gyms there, because the in Georgia very good, one of the best wrestlers, one of the best judo guys, good boxing. They like sports, so in the future from Georgia can be so much good fighters.
Tsarukyan's not the only person to make this statement. After all, Dagestan has produced many fighting stars to date, some of which include Khabib Nurmagomedov, his cousins Usman and Umar, in addition to many more, like Makhachev. But following Bryce Mitchell's recent decision win over Said Nurmagomedov, who is not related to the legendary family of Khabib, he made this comment about his home state, Arkansas.
Send him to Arkansas 2 or 3 years and forget about it.
What are your thoughts on Mitchell's little jab here? Khabib reveals why he won't return to the UFC. Khabib Nurmagomedov has repeatedly shot down any talk that he could return to the octagon. And recently, the legend provided some additional context as to why. Nurmagomedov stunned many throughout the MMA world back in 2020 when, following his win over Justin Gaethje, he announced he was retiring. Khabib was only 32 and he was only a few years into his championship reign. Well, the former lightweight king has continued to field questions about coming back to the cage. More recently, while talking to The Hustle Show, the legend explained how long it would take for him to get back into fighting shape, even if he wanted to fight again. You mean fighting shape? No, 2 to 3 months wouldn't be enough. I'll be 37 in 2 months in September. If we're talking purely hypothetically, right? If we're being honest, it would take at least 6 months. Because when you're getting in shape, sometimes people make this mistake. Here's what happens. You look at this. This fighter's in good shape ahead of the fight, but that doesn't mean anything. How he looks means nothing. What matters most is how many sparring rounds he's done and who he sparred with. Everything else, lifting, fitness, running, it means nothing. How much you lifted, how much you benched. Our sport isn't about running, bodybuilding, fitness, CrossFit, none of that. Our sport is you step in one-on-one, get in your stance, and you fight. Yeah, if Khabib could have been convinced to come back for one more fight, you'd think it would have been a couple of years ago. It certainly seems like that chapter of his life is firmly closed. Dana White receives backlash for UFC 319 co-main event. Recently, UFC President Dana White confirmed that the new co-main event for UFC 319 will be a featherweight fight between Lerone Murphy and Aaron Pico, and that news has not been going over too well with a lot of fans. With UFC 319 set to take place right around the corner on August 16th, there was a lot of buzz regarding what was going to be the co-main. More recently, White finally confirmed that Pico will make his octagon debut against the surging Lerone Murphy. As noted, the announcement didn't generate a lot of high fives. Here were some of the reactions. First time coming back to Chicago in years, and Dana gives us this. That's just not getting anyone excited, respectfully. This would have been a prelim fight 2 years ago, man, holy $800 ticket just to see that as the co-main. Get the out of here, UFC, do better. This is the first time you're going back to Chicago in 6 years. I would rather have Prates, who main evented with Ian in April in a fight night, versus Neil as co-main, or had Belal Muhammad versus Ian Gary. Lerone Murphy as co-main on a pay-per-view is insane. UFC's really scraping the barrel now. Carlos Prates should have had that spot. He's the only one bringing the heat after Khamzat. Nobody excited for this one. Can we get some ranked fighters? In other words, they don't have a co-main event. The UFC is really lacking superstar talent these days. UFC is garbage the last few years. Nothing to look forward to. One top fight every few months. Rematch after rematch after rematch. Women's MMA heavyweight division just boring. After this main event, there's nothing to look forward to. You guys should be ashamed. Off-brand Leon Edwards in the co-main on late notice is seriously unacceptable. Do you agree that Murphy versus Pico has no business being a co-main event for a pay-per-view card? And that this is another sign that the UFC is slipping? We have a favor to ask. Help us reach 200,000 subscribers on MMA Zone by subscribing and turning on notifications for daily MMA content. Seriously, we rarely miss a day.